I got home at 11:30. I was working the walnuts at 12, and I had a lot of stuff ready.
All right. Good morning, everyone. The date is Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. This is a regular time and place for a meeting of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. We continue to deal with the health emergency, so the board is using the WebEx teleconferencing format for today's meeting. So whether you joined us by way of the web or by way of the teleconferencing, we thank you for your attendance. Also, if you'd like to make a public comment through the teleconferencing format, please use the raise a hand feature or get somebody's attention if you're on the teleconferencing. Members of the audience, we want to also thank you for being here. And hopefully you filled out a speaker's card for when we get to the section for unscheduled appearances, and they will be called up in order that they're received by the clerk. Each vote today will be a verbal or voice vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. We'll introduce the item and then discussion. We'll have a motion and a second, and then the vote will be taken up by district. With those housekeeping items taken care of, I'm going to ask the clerk now to please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon.
Here.
Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. We have 5 members present. We have established quorum. We will be able to conduct business, so thank you very much. Now, if I can ask you all to please rise as we invite Pastor Arthur Fox of the New Hope Orthodox Presbyterian Church forward to deliver to this morning's invocation.
Good morning. I want to read a familiar passage of scripture and then something to add to it. Jesus said, pray like this. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And one more passage, because I want to focus on, in particular, that give us this day our daily bread. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, not about your body, nor about your body what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more value than they? And he goes on to say, you have little faith. Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat or what shall we drink? What shall we wear? For your Gentiles seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. I remember when my mother died in 1974, I got very worried. She was the backbone of the family. She was the one I depended on. And I thought, I can't do this for myself. And that's when the Lord patiently taught me, I'm here. We live in an anxious time. It leads people to violence, it leads them to suicide, it leads them to living lives that are unfulfilling. It's because we forget, or perhaps we don't believe in Jesus. We forget there's a God who rules all things and feeds the birds of the air. Worry is not a good thing, and I think, in my view, it's tearing our country apart and leading us to do all kinds of inconsiderate things. We need to trust the Lord. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, forgive us for being anxious. Forgive us when our trust is not in you. And forgive us, O Lord, for not praying more and worrying less. Our Father in heaven, we pray for these gentlemen and ladies who serve us so well in this community, in this county. And we thank you for their faithful service and how well they do their jobs. And pray that you would give them wisdom from on high, that you would give them strength and courage to stand up for what is right, that all of us, Lord, would be granted the ability to trust in you and not be afraid. Guide this meeting, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Now join me as we honor America by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you very much. It's that portion of the agenda which is unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of this board. 2 minutes are allowed for each item. Madam Clerk, do you have a record of speakers this morning?
We did receive written correspondence through the chair from Ruth Lopez from Valley Voices, and that will become part of the record today. The first speaker card that we have is Ruth Lopez.
Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. As Ms. Catherine had mentioned, my name is Ruth Lopez and I'm with Valley Voices. I am here to ask the Board of Supervisors to consider Valley Voices proposal for the RFP 2023-10 for the COVID preventative services. I attempted to submit yesterday, but unfortunately I walked into the wrong door, thus making me a minute late to the actual purchasing department within Building 6. I went into the planning department, which is also in Building 6. And so I just wanted to, I apologize. I'm not a great public speaker. I'm hoping for the opportunity to submit for the proposals, as I believe that Valley Voices is the best suited to continue this work. We have, for the past year, conducted numerous testing and vaccine clinics throughout the county, and we already have 12 planned for October throughout. You know, we have one in Corcoran this weekend at the Cotton Festival. We'll be in Stratford and Lemoore High later in October. We have various ongoing testing and vaccine sites at Almost Flea Market, the Episcopal Church of the Savior on Wednesdays, and El Rey Supermercado on Saturdays. And so I'm just hoping for the consideration to accept our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lupe Villa.
Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Members of the board, how you guys doing this morning? Lupe Villa with the Elections Department. I would like to provide the board with a brief update on the upcoming November 8th general election. As of yesterday, we had 61,290 registered voters in Kings County. During this last weekend, voters started receiving their first mailer, the voter show stack mailer. The second mailer will be going out October 17th. Voters should start receiving their ballots October 7th thereafter, along with their voter informational guides. So those should be coming in the mail soon. On October 29th, we're going to open up our two 11-day vote centers. My office is going to become a vote center and the Office of Education in Lemoore. On November 5th, we're going to open an additional 5 centers throughout the county for a total of 7. Our ballot drop boxes will be open October 7th, and there's 11 boxes throughout Kings County as well. The locations of the vote centers and ballot drop boxes remain the same as the June primary. Those locations are cited on the informational guide. They're on our website, or you can call our office to get information on where to go as well. So folks wishing to become poll workers may call our office at 559-852-4401. Then go to our website, get the application submitted by line, or come to our office and we can assist them. And lastly, I want to invite you and the public to come in, and we're going to be having an open house, or it's an open house for folks to come in and interact with the voting equipment and ask questions related to the election. That's going to be October 12th between 2 and 4 p.m. at the multipurpose room. So folks are welcome to attend and come with your questions or interact with the equipment that we have. And that's all I got. Yes, you guys have any questions?
Very good. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
How many times can we vote?
Yeah, well, since you're not on the ballot, you get to vote once,
Oh,
but you can try twice. Any other questions, comments? Nope, thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speaker cards that I have, but Anthony Lopez online would like to speak.
Good morning, Chair and Board of Supervisors. Anthony Lopez with the City of Avalon. Just very quickly want to concur with Ruth Lopez and the application from Valley Voices and their RFP. Valley Voices has done a great service here in Avalon. They've provided a lot of resources anytime our communities ask for more testing, rapid test, PCR testing or vaccines, even flu vaccines. They've always been able to answer the call and help us out here in Avalon. So I sincerely hope that the board and the administration is able to consider their application, as they're providing a very crucial service here to the county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's all that I'm aware of.
Last call, anybody in chambers would like to address the board under unscheduled? Seeing no one come forward, we'll move on to the first action item, or no, we won't either. We'll do the reporting out on closed session of the meeting on September 20th. Diane, do you have a report out on the closed session item?
Thank you. There is nothing to report from closed session.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now we'll move to the first action item of the day, and that's the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held on September 20th. Board members had an opportunity to read the minutes.
So move. Second, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Fagundes, seconded by Valley. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley, Doug Verboon,
abstain?
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show 4 in favor, 1 abstention. Thank you very much. The next item on today's agenda is the consent calendar, and all items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted by one motion. The request of any board member, any item may be removed and made part of the regular agenda. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns on the consent calendar this morning?
I'll move as presented.
Second. Moved by Verboen, seconded by Fagundes. Additional discussion? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show the consent calendar stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much. Moving on to the first item under regular agenda items comes from Human Resources. Carolyn, good morning.
Chairman, members of the board, Carolyn Least, Human Resources Director. I'm here today for a new policy. The Fair Labor Standards Act, which is FLSA, and the California Labor Code require employers to provide reasonable breaks and appropriate facilities to accommodate employees who choose to express breast milk at work for their infant child. Human Resources and County Council drafted a lactation policy to meet FLSA and California Labor Code requirements. The drafted policy and request form were distributed to all department heads. All input and feedback received by departments were incorporated into the final draft. Additionally, each bargaining unit also received the draft policy and request form for review and and were provided an opportunity to meet and confer on the impacts of the policy. I had this agenda on for, I think it was the week before, and we ended up having one unit who did request to meet and confer, which we did do that with the Detentions Association. As a result of those discussions, minor changes were made to incorporate their feedback. And so the new proposed policy and request form are attached for your review. It is recommended that the board approve the lactation policy, accommodation policy, which is going to be 10-21. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, comments, or concerns on the policy?
One question.
Yes.
If there's no question or comments, I'll move approval.
Question.
Supervisor Valley, you have a
Yeah,
question?
Sure. Yeah. Just reading this, it says, and if I read it wrong, just tell me. It says that if someone's going to do this, to go take time to go express. I think that's the right word.
Yes.
But I think it says that it's got to run concurrently with scheduled breaks. I mean, how would that work? When, isn't it? There's a time to do it, and when the time is there, or it could be painful if you're waiting for a certain time, wouldn't we? I just want to make sure that there's enough room in this so people are comfortable.
Absolutely.
And we're not just doing the minimum.
Okay, so we provided a lot of language in here to provide departments the flexibility to work with employees. And so we have learned just in the piloting the program to see that, you know, you're right, it's not going to be like at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. on the dot for your break. So there's flexibility built in with the departments. One of the other struggles we've been seeing is the spaces. There's not enough room locations in each department to pretty much facilitate the lactating moms in the office. So what they're doing is they're just kind of doing sign-in sheets, and the employees are working it out to have that ability to flex it. But it is usually typically concurrent with a break. And so the 15 minutes of the break time, anything beyond that is unpaid, and they can either flex their time or use their accruals, whichever they prefer. And the departments have the request form to work with the employee based on their accommodation request.
So I wasn't aware of our pilot program, my fault, but how long have we had the pilot program, and there's been no negative feedback?
We did it based on some other issues that were coming up in another department. And so when those issues came up, we were already drafting this policy. So we kind of used this as our guide. And it was a nice way to help us kind of see where we needed to tweak the policy to make sure it was flexible and had that ability to work with employees. And so it's been working really well, specifically in the department that we had the issues with.
Okay. My opinion is I'm counting on you. There's not a woman's voice up here, so we don't know what that's like at all. And I won't pretend to know. So I'm counting on you to make sure that this is a good policy and it works for our employees that fall under this. Okay.
Yeah, we compared our policy to several agencies throughout California, and county council and our office landed on one that was pretty close to what we wanted, but we also work with the unions to make sure that flexibility is there. I think it's important to make sure employees have the flexibility of being able to work outside of a 40-hour FLSA work week to ensure that they're getting the accommodation they need to be able to do this lactation.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? This item's been moved by Raboon,
Second, Mr. Chair.
seconded by Valley. Thank you very much. Additional questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show that item stands approved unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item comes from Public Works, and Dominic, you have a couple of items.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dominic Tyberski, Public Works Director. I'm before you this morning with a couple of items, first of which is to request authorization for the purchasing manager to approve the purchase orders for 16 vehicles utilizing Sourcewell Purchasing Consortium. Funding in the amount of $909,000 was allocated by your board in the adopted fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. However, the county purchasing policy and past practice requires an additional authorization to execute these purchase orders. The requested vehicles for the sheriff's office and probation department include 12 Dodge Charger patrol vehicles in the amount of $700,000, one Dodge Ram truck in the amount of $58,000, and three Dodge Durangos in the amount of $151,000. If approved by your board, the order will be placed immediately as current market conditions have drastically changed, not only our ability to procure vehicles, but the manner in which we procure them, including a limited window of just a few days within which to place orders. And again, that doesn't guarantee that we get the vehicles, but it's a very limited window to even place the order and hope that we secure the vehicles needed. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Very good. Thank you, Dominic. Questions, comments, or concerns about the Dodge fleet?
You didn't turn in the, sorry, Mr. Chair, they didn't turn in the pricing
It's
or
in the,
the form that came from the actual dealership. Typically you do.
So we use Sourcewell,
Yeah.
and then we place the order. So the first step is to get the purchase orders to even secure the order. So again, there's no guarantee that we'll actually get to purchase the vehicles.
You like the prices on the.
Nobody likes the price.
No, I know. What I'm trying to get to is I know that we don't have local Ram. We usually go to Fresno, right? For these, I mean, for the Dodge vehicles, we don't have Dodge in Kings County. So, I mean, just right now.
right there on Lacey.
Okay. And then are these from Kings County then?
I do not believe so. Do you know where the vehicles
They'll
actually
come.
come from?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's hard. They don't have them on the lot right now.
Especially right now.
Right. All right. I was just double checking because not only because of our local vendor policy, but just an effort to save a couple bucks where I mean, everyone's paying about $7,000 or $8,000 over sticker price right now because of the lack of inventory. So I just wanted your personal opinion on the purchase.
So just to be quite frank, this was actually on consent and it was pulled at the last minute. So I've kind of scrambled to get some information together. So if I'm falling short in answering your questions, I'd be happy to get back to you with some.
No,
more
it's fine. I'll
information.
say, was there a motion? I'll
yet.
second.
You want to make the motion?
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Valley,
Second.
seconded by Peterson. Thank you very much. Yeah, and Rhonda's not going to go too much over what she's going to squeeze them for every drop.
Good.
You know, unfortunately, we're having a tough time getting the vehicles at any
Correct.
price, and we're competing with much larger agencies. And so just to be able to secure these is really a win. I wouldn't say at any price, but, you know, just being able to get them is a positive. So.
I know one of the associations with California State Association of Counties is Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And when you think of the amount and the size of their fleet,
Oh, yeah.
they can't get cars. They've been told they're not going to get cars. You know, the hundreds of thousands of cars that they buy on an annual basis, and they can't get a vehicle. Their rental fleets typically are turned at 25,000 miles. They said most of them are now at 60 to 70,000 miles. They're beside themselves. They don't know what they're going to do. So it's a challenge.
It's messing up their business model.
Yeah.
All right, the items have been moved by Valley, seconded by Peterson. Any other additional questions, comments? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Let the record show that item stands approved. 5 in favor. Good luck. Good luck, Rhonda. Dominic, you want to continue and talk about the pruning tower?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The second item I have before you this morning is to request authorization for a lease-to-own financing agreement and authorization for the purchasing manager to sign the purchase order. The lease is through Community Leasing Partners for a new pruning tower for the Public Works Parks and Grounds Division. In April of this year, your board approved a similar contract for an Afron pruning tower. Unfortunately, again, due to market conditions, it was determined after your board's approval that the equipment would not be available until 2023. An alternate pruning tower manufactured by Guardian rather than Afron was secured for immediate delivery. And we should be able to get that within the next few days, again, pending your board's approval. The Guardian pruning tower is $10,000 more. However, in addition to immediate availability, the equipment is a better structural integrity than the similar Afron model. Payments will be made through the Public Works budget as a capital lease for $834.98. And I do need to point that out, as the agenda item, I believe, states $720, but the actual monthly lease payment will be $834.98 for 6 years. And at this point, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Very good. Thank you, Dominic. Questions, comments, or concerns?
There are no questions or comments. I move for approval.
Moved by Fagundes. Second. Seconded by Peterson. Thank you very much. Additional discussion? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley, Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show that item stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much. Good luck. Doug said he wants to be the first one up on the.
No. Whole life along this thing.
All right, the next item comes from administration dealing with the organic waste recycling. Matthew, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Matthew Boyette, Kings County Administration. So last week, I was before your board to bring the first introduction to our SB 1383 ordinance, which is our organics waste and recycling mandate that we have to comply with. After that meeting, there was some changes that needed to be made to our ordinance based on some of the comments from your board, some of the comments, feedback from our haulers and KWRA. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and customized it as much as we could to go ahead and make it a better fit for our current situation. So some of the notable changes that we made since the last ordinance that was brought before you last week was we deleted the definition of compostable plastics. We've also removed textiles and carpets and non-compostable items from being allowed in the green bin. So those are no longer allowed in the green bin. We also removed the annual financial report requirement of our haulers, as well as we are not allowing anything with the potential to rot being allowed in the blue bin. So more of your dry type of recyclables there. We also kept with a more traditional blue and green can definitions to kind of eliminate the gray areas there of, you know, it can go in both, and kind of take the confusion off of our waste generators there. Along with the definitions that we have outlined in this ordinance, they are going to change as the law changes. So as the state kind of adjusts the way they define things, we're not going to then need to bring the ordinance back for revisions. It'll change with the law to make it a little more streamlined process there. And then we also changed the delinquency date notice. So if a generator is notified as being delinquent after 3 months, rather than having 30 days to pay that delinquency before there's a lien, there's now 60 days to pay that account before there's a lien. So those were the notable changes that we made since the last time I was here, and those are included in the ordinance that you have in front of you this morning. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. And if I can't, I've got Cindy here as well, and so thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you for incorporating then the changes. Questions or comments? Supervisor Valley.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Did you say you worked with some of the vendors that currently provide services here in Kings County to see if there's any way we can make this work better than what's proposed?
Correct. So the initial ordinance, they provided comment on, you know, a lot of the changes that I just outlined here. You know, this doesn't apply. This doesn't necessarily work for our logistics. This is what we would like to see to make sure that it, you know, incorporates their infrastructure, make sure that it doesn't cause them any, you know, undue hardships, and make sure that it works, you know, harmoniously with all of our haulers and KWRA and us here at the county. So
Since last Tuesday, these talks took place?
Those talks took place before last Tuesday. Since last Tuesday, we haven't received any additional feedback other than what was given to us before the board and that feedback that we received at the board meeting. So since the board meeting last Tuesday and this morning. We haven't received any additional feedback on any additional changes needing to be made to the ordinance.
Okay, because I asked that more from the standpoint, yeah, we want it to work for the vendors, but from the standpoint of how it works for the people we represent. And, you know, it's an uncomfortable position because coming out of last Tuesday, and we did spend close to an hour on this discussion last Tuesday, but just, yeah, you missed it.
You talk trash enough. You don't need it.
It's on YouTube though. You need to go to sleep tonight. But it's the calls that I received on this just say that it's not going to work. It's not going to work, and it's not going to work for some of the communities, at least in my district. But it's an unfair advantage where it's a state mandate. And I would love to vote no, but it's selfish to vote no because I believe a couple other members may want to vote no on it. And, you know, it just doesn't seem like good policy. And it was my hopes that you could work with some of the vendors to, I mean, our county's small enough. If we got to go this route, let's figure out a way to customize this where the people we represent aren't as impacted. Right? Meaning higher prices or the possibility of no service. But right now, this isn't something that when I say yes to it, that I support. And I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but this just, as of today, it's just not good policy and it's not your fault.
Sure.
I'm not putting this on you.
Correct.
It's something that came to us. And
Right.
I think everyone knows that. We'll scratch that. People aren't going to blame the Assembly and the Senate members. We're going to get blamed.
Right.
And that's what happens because we're here at the local level. And that started about 1 o'clock last Tuesday. And the only good news I have for anyone who called me was this got pushed back off the agenda and will be on today's. So that's why I was asking if anybody had reached out to you to try to make this a little bit better.
Yeah, no constituents have reached out to me or to any of my other colleagues that have been working on this to my knowledge. So this is incorporating all of the feedback that we've received to date as of I stand here now. So
No, thank you. Thank you. And then, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you could ask if there's any one of those vendors online or anyone who wanted to speak on the item as well.
There is a hand up. Okay. Linda Martin.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and members of the board. I do want to thank Mr. Boyette for all his hard work on this. I work for Thule Trash Company and American Refuse. I wanted to address you today. I know that this is a state mandate, but my concerns are mainly over fees and rates that could be in the unforeseeable future. We all work in disadvantaged communities, and sometimes the fringe areas that this will affect, we see folks that have even more of an economic hardship. Now, I know in Mr. Boyotte's presentation, you know, there was a fee set for some of these generators. It was going to bring in roughly about $300,000 for 2 new staff members, supplies and whatnot. What I am concerned about is some of the unforeseeable. So, for example, there was talk about the Recollect app. I've heard that can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. I don't know if that incorporates all of Kings or if that would be separated by cities. The additional staff that might be needed in the future. You know, SB 1383 has a lot of monitoring. There's lid flipping, there's waste characterization studies, there's seasonal waste audits. And I'm just curious how this will affect some of the ratepayers, the self-haulers. Is KWA going to need more staff to take this on when we have to do the characterization studies? And if folks don't bring things in automatically separated, which is what this is, a 3-cart system, is KWA going to have to separate it? I also wanted to just be mindful of the California Health Code, you know, where trash and organics needs to be picked up every 7 days. Is there going to be an additional staff member to make sure that these self-haulers are actually doing this? Because I work in jurisdictions that don't always have mandated service. The neighbors complain to us over rats and debris in their yard. So I just wondered if there's a code enforcement that would monitor this. and also monitoring to make sure that people are subscribing to service. And if they unsubscribe to service, are there going to be fines to these generators? You know, another thing we sometimes see is the illegal dumping that increases. It affects the businesses and mostly the farmers that, you know, are growing our food. One other thing I just wanted to ask, was the county able to apply for some of the grants put forth by Cal Recycle to help reduce the rates for some of these areas? And I realize that, you know, you voted to go more towards an open market, but I just wanted to bring up, you know, since we're in the San Joaquin Air Pollution Control District, not the best air all the time, you know, what this will do as far as truck traffic with the emissions. I know a lot of the haulers have tried to move to CNG and RNG to help. If we're having a lot of self haulers, how does that affect our air quality, the road wear and tear, things like that? And if things don't work out, which of course I do want them to work out, how would fines be assessed from Cal Recycle if things are found not to be in compliance? Because I've heard the worst fine is $10,000 a day. So is that going to be trickled down to some of these ratepayers? And that was all of my comments for today. Of course, I want to continue to work with staff and you all to help these customers and ratepayers, you know, be in compliance at the best possible rate. Thank you so much for your time.
Good, thank you. Matthew, you want to try to address a couple of those?
Yeah, so there was a question in there on if the county had applied for any grants to help supplement some of the costs of implementing this. And there was a grant available through Cal Recycle for implementing this, but unfortunately they had a requirement that the jurisdiction had to have an ordinance passed by, I believe the date was June 14th. And obviously, I mean, we're here today at the first reading. So, you know, as I was here, you know, several months ago, with the extension application to, you know, delay our implementation process as we kind of work through all of these, you know, basically situations and thoughts that Linda just laid out. You know, we didn't plan to actually bring the ordinance until this particular time. So we didn't make that deadline. So that pot of funding there went away. So also, I think there was another point brought up about higher fees and stuff like that in some of the fringe areas and the unincorporated areas, disadvantaged communities. And just a reminder for your board and everybody that we did apply for census tracts waivers. So if there are census tracts within the unincorporated areas in the county that have a population of 75 people or less per square mile, we did receive an exemption from SB 1383 for those census tracts. So that takes care of a lot of the extremely rural parts of the county. So they're not held to the same standards as those, maybe closely linked to the fringe of other incorporated cities. So a lot of those areas are exempt from implementation. So, and as far as, you know, extra staff, extra resources needing to implement this as far as reporting and monitoring goes, that's all built into our implementation plan. That's all part of the master fee schedule process that I mentioned to your board a couple of weeks ago, as to what the generators will be charged to reimburse the county for the need to hire those additional staff to take on this burden of SB 1383, because with the current infrastructure there at Public Health, we can't do all the things effectively to ensure compliance within the jurisdiction. So that is being addressed. And then one more point, I think Linda brought up a question as to the fines for Cal Recycle and who those are going to fall on. So those fines ultimately fall on the jurisdiction. So if there's non-compliance from a particular hauler, a particular generator, the responsibility ultimately falls on the jurisdiction. So in our case, ultimate responsibility and fines fall on us, the county. How the county wishes to address those fines, that's still up to the decision of your board, whether it's assessed to the, to those that didn't comply, or whether that's, just kind of taken on the chin, so to speak. So, but ultimately, that will be assessed on the jurisdiction there, so.
And then the illegal dumping?
Chuck, do you want to address how we kind of, sorry to like totally put you on the spot, but do you want to address how we kind of deal with illegal dumping now and kind of how we might plan on addressing it in the future?
Or let the wind, or let the wind blow it?
Yeah,
Sorry to like totally.
we had it.
They're tag teaming you.
So as far as illegal dumping goes, it's kind of tag team between our two departments, if it's on public right of way or if it's on private land.
Well, you can always push it over.
Some people do. I'm not advising people to do it one way or the other. But in the past, Public Works has been, through your board, has been granted some funding to help cover some of those costs. And
We have, and in fact, we even have purchased specialized equipment with the grappling arm to pick up the larger pieces because we do have so much in the right of way right now. That was one of the concerns that we had with allowing for the self-haulers is, possibly an increase in trash alongside the road. But again, anybody who's designated themselves as a self-hauler still has to get an account with the county. And we're monitoring how frequent they are making trips to KWRA because it's the only place they could take their refuse. And if they're not utilizing that service, then, we'll be reaching out, working with them. So.
Mr. Chairman,
question.
thank you. Also, Public Health through Environmental Health does have several illegal dumping cleanup grant programs that they execute every year. It doesn't stop the dumping, but it is an avenue to help clean them up on a semi-regular basis when they're available. And we do apply for those and get granted those.
And is organics part of that?
Any illegal dumping.
Any illegal dumping, so they don't differentiate? All right, you have a wealth of information right there. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so we had a comment from Thule Trash. And is Mid Valley part of this too? We went to Mid Valley luncheon here about a year ago. They talked about how they're preparing for this. In our community here, how many haulers do we have lined up? Just three?
We have 3 permitted haulers.
Thule
yeah.
Trash, Mid Valley, and
Waste management.
Waste Management. Okay.
Yeah. And Mid Valley did provide a lot of the feedback on our ordinance that was incorporated into this revised one that we have this morning. So
Yeah, it seemed like they were on top of it early on and prepared. It sucks that we have to do this, but we have no control. We have to comply. It's like the air board. I mean, they're there because of the EPA. So what happens if we don't accept the reading of the first ordinance?
If we don't accept the reading, it will be a delay. It won't be passed on time. It won't be effective on time. We could be subject to some sort of sanction, some sort of comment from the state. Eventually, the county will need to pass an ordinance or suffer the repercussions from the state.
Yeah, I've been against it the whole time, but I mean, it's fighting it now doesn't really do any good for the county. It costs us more money.
if I could add just to Supervisor Raboon's point, we recently had a meeting with Cal Recycle, actually last Tuesday afternoon, to formalize our corrective action plan for implementing this since we're so far out. And in that, we have a relatively strict timeline of, all the milestones we have to hit, obviously passing an ordinance being one of them. Last Tuesday, I did let them know that, hey, our initial timeline is going to get pushed out a week because, we need to have revisions and so on and so forth. So they were gracious enough to allow for that to kind of get built in. But, we now have a corrective action plan that's being formalized and, we'll be held to stick to that via Cal Recycle. So
How much authority do we have to adjust this as we go along and make it fit our county? Can we do that?
just the ordinance or the corrective action plan?
Ordinance or corrective measures? I mean, can we adjust it as we go along to make it fit our area where we live in?
Yeah, I can answer that. Yes, absolutely. It's an ordinance and it's enacted by the board and it can be amended by the board in the same manner that's enacted.
And it does have a provision to be able to be adjusted even as the state changes the rules of engagement. So, Supervisor Peterson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. really frustrated with this. But it's not uncommon, right? Look at Sigma. Look at it, the air quality mandates that have come down. And, from the air quality stuff, I mean, you look at what the state has done. It's really confusing, right? Send down the mandate, just comply, right? Well, we're the ones that got to work with the people and get this accomplished. And there's no consideration for, the challenges that your communities face, right? With respect to air quality. Here we are, the local air district has, worked its ass off to improve air quality by 80% in this region. Yet we have legislators locally running up to Sacramento, trying to remove the authority and give it that the air district has and give it to the state, to CARB. Guess what? Both CARB and the state are the largest goal remaining for air quality incentives, right? Or for mandates. The thing that's missing in this picture is the emissions, tailpipe emissions. We have no control as a local air district over emissions, but here we are. Somebody wants to give more power to Sacramento to shove more down our throat that we can't comply with, and that we're asked to do this. So it's really unfortunate. All you have to do is look north. That's who you can, shift the thank you to. But for us, I think I'm impressed staff has taken this on and done such a professional job. We're not going to please everyone. But as Supervisor Verboen asked, and what I believe, this is a working document. We're not going to, we represent the people. We're going to make sure that this thing works. But the unfortunate scenario that we're in is that we have to comply and take taxpayers' dollars and pay for fines and things because we're going to be late, I think is irresponsible. I think we need to move this forward. Thank you for your hard work on this. And I would make the motion to do so.
And I'm a second, but I should have bought that goat last night. That goat to eat the 800
Garbage.
$800 for that goat.
I know. The item's been moved by Peterson, second by Verboen. Additional questions from Valley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One more question. So I know we already approved, if my memory serves me right, the 2 new full-time positions that are going to be dedicated to this program. Was it 2 or 1?
That is the plan, yes. And that agenda item will be coming to your board here shortly to formally adopt those positions within.
Okay,
the
so we
public
haven't
health
done that yet.
allocation.
Greg will be looking for a job in January.
Just to get slightly ahead of that, the revenue source for those 2 full-time positions, is that built into the county budget already, or are those salaries going to be on the back of the ratepayers for
That's
that?
going to be on the back of the ratepayers, unfortunately, yes. So that's what's built into the plan of, assessing fees to those that either elect to self-haul or procure service, to go ahead and ensure that the Department of Public Health doesn't, incur any, unreimbursable expenses, and making sure that they're, more, able to remain self-sufficient and all of that, and make sure that the burden doesn't fall on them. And so that was the plan that was brought before the board in the study session. I can't remember the exact date, but that was the initial plan laid out, and that master fee schedule will be coming before your board for adoption here towards the end of the year, which those will be built into there, yes.
Okay, so just the only thing I'm going to say to stay ahead, come very conservative that day. If we don't need 2 people, or if you can't show justification for 2 people, I can't see being supportive of it.
Sure.
And also, I'd like to see let's bring some kind of graphic or map that shows if there is any unfair, or make sure it's a level playing field on where those monies are going to come from around the county. I need to see that too, but and also be prepared to answer, why can't existing staff take on this? Why would we have to jump the gun and hire 2 people right off the bat without working through this and seeing if existing staff can't just take this on?
Sure.
Already, because that's already a bad program, something we don't want to do. And now our people are going to pay for that. And that's the timing of that right now with everything else going on is not even close to being fair. And that is not on you. I'm not putting this on you, but that's a frustration on how this trickles down. I'd rather hire 2 more deputies than 2 people to carry out this program. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments? Dominic or Chuck, anything you want to wrap up with?
The only thing I wanted to mention is Supervisor Valley, you had asked about public input, and we did hold town hall meetings, 3 of them, with which we, attempted to do public outreach and engage the constituents. We had not a whole lot of attendance, which is what we expected, but we did provide that opportunity. So and we can continue to do so.
Yeah.
I went to one.
The packed town halls come after we pass it.
Yeah.
People are
Right.
mad.
When the rate increase hit.
Yeah.
And within that, to follow up with what Dominic said, within that presentation, I did outline what our timeframe looked like as far as implementation goes. So when they can expect an ordinance to come for the first reading, the second reading, so they can kind of be aware of, when things are going to be happening. So we try to inform them as much as we possibly can. And so, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. I think we have one more speaker this morning. Please state your name for the ad.
Jeff Martin, Thule Trash, American Refuse. I appreciate you guys focusing so much on this and staff. I know this is a daunting process. I know it's a real challenge and none of us really want to be strapped with it. But I really do appreciate you, especially Mr. Valley, expressing our concerns. We don't want to do a service and strap ratepayers with higher rates that don't get any value out of what they're getting. So we're going to focus on that as much as possible to take care of this issue and not have egregious rates for them. So thank you.
Very good. Appreciate that.
We had the governor's staff here about 2 weeks ago and explained how we take the cow, we feed them whole food and refuge to help, justify our cost for having milk. Kind of explain it tied to 1883 that we're already doing a lot of this now.
Correct.
And you're really causing a disservice to our community. And so I don't think she heard us, but that's about it.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. Additional questions, comments, or concerns?
People that wrote this law don't have this problem in our community. And they just did it to control us.
Correct.
Yeah. What area of the county does this model work? Where someone said, whoa, this is not the county, the state.
Right.
Where does this model work around the state where
Between
people said,
between the jurisdictions, yeah.
Atherton and Santa Clara.
yeah.
With that, the item's been moved by Peterson, seconded by Braboon. All discussion has ended. So will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
It's a highly disguised no with a yes.
Doug Verboon,
What?
It's a yes.
Yeah.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Thank you.
The item stands approved, 5 in favor. And Matthew, you come back for the second reading?
Next week.
34 pages. I want to hear them all.
All right.
You going to practice?
I'm ready right now. So,
Are you?
yes.
All right. That concludes that item. Now we get an update from the Public Health Department. Rosemary, good morning.
Thank you, Chairman, Supervisors. Rosemary Rand, Department of Public Health. Here today to provide you a COVID update. And the number of COVID cases has steadily decreased for the past 7 weeks. For the last 2 weeks since my last report, there are 345 cases. If you'll remember, 2 weeks ago, there were 608. BA.5, Omicron is still the dominant strain among samples sequenced in September. And last week, Kings County moved into the low or green area for CDC community transmission levels. Local hospitalizations have also reduced. There are 2 hospitalized cases. Both are Kings County residents, and both are in the med-surg unit. The daily patient average for the past 2 weeks was 5.4. Testing continues in the county at various locations and also at the Public Health Department. As noted, those have reduced as the cases go down. For the last 2 weeks, there were a total of 879 tests done in Kings County Department of Public Health and 5,351 in the county as a whole. Vaccinations have increased. Over the last 2 weeks, 1,285 vaccines were given in Kings County, and at the Health Department, 167. The increase is related to the new booster that is now available. Residents can get vaccinations at the Health Department, local pharmacies, and several pop-up clinics around the county. And the current schedule is on our website. The bivalent boosters are available at the Health Department in various locations, and these boosters are formulated to protect against BA.4 and 5 subvariants. The COVID weekly report and additional data is on our website at kcdph.com. And as always, would like to remind everyone to stay home when you're sick, get tested if experiencing COVID-like symptoms, and get vaccinated or boosted if you've not yet. Last week, the state announced a change to the masking orders related to homeless shelters, correctional settings, and cooling centers. Masks are optional when the CDC community levels are in the low transmission range. So basically, now that we're in the green, masks are optional in those 3 settings. Masks are still required in healthcare settings, clinics, skilled nursing facilities, and areas of shelters or correctional settings that healthcare is being provided have to wear masks. But other than that, they're optional. Just as a quick update on MPX, we still only have 1 case in Kings County. There are 101 in the counties in the San Joaquin Valley. There has been a reduction in the outbreak. Currently, California is averaging 37 cases per day compared to the 98 cases per day at the height of the outbreak in early August. There is information on our website. As for West Nile virus, there currently looks like 5 neuroinvasive cases. 4 cases, which included 2 deaths, have been confirmed. And then there's 1 still pending state lab testing. And then there's 1 non-neuroinvasive case. I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Questions? Immunizations for MPX?
The immunization for MPX are being offered to close contacts and then those at highest risk. We had 13 vaccinations. I think we're still there at 13,
Still
but I'd have to check and see.
Keeping 13?
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Quick question, Sheriff.
Yes.
If the county was ready to slow down any of the COVID programs or
Actually, we are. We're actually evaluating how often we're doing testing and the vaccinations. We were offering every day. We might go to a more shaved down method just because the numbers aren't as high. Certain days are bigger than other days. So we're looking at the numbers as well as we have a vendor providing services to rural communities. So we're noticing that more people are doing those rather than coming to the health department now. So we actually are evaluating reducing those or shifting those a little bit, but still having some availability.
Okay, you may have answered my question a little bit, but the question was going to be, do we have to wait for the president or the governor to say the pandemic is over? Or do you have the ability to advise the board, let's move on?
So here's the thing. I think we can reduce some of the services we're providing as a health department based on our numbers because there's a lot of other services available. As for the declarations, those are at that level. They're going to have to do it. So there's still that state declaration. And Ed probably can talk about too, some of the declarations that we kind of have to live by with some of the rules. But as for a department, if we feel like there's enough services out in the community, we can modify.
Supervisor Roon, you have a question?
I was in Washington DC last week. I was in the White House on Tuesday at lunchtime and no proof of verification, no
Yeah.
nothing. They didn't ask. A couple of offices asked you to fill out a waiver. They took your word for it, whether you had, I had my card with me. No one asked for it. No restrictions, no nothing. And they had a concert like 2 nights later and there was no mask, nothing happening. So I think it's been, everybody kind of let their guard down and get on with their lives. But that's where it started. We were there in February and you had to show proof of your vaccination, getting into Uber cars, into all the buildings. And this time, nothing.
I think there's a significant shift in how we're looking at it, like even with the masking, now that we're in low transmission, masks are optional. However, if there's an outbreak, like 3 or more cases, then you would go back to kind of the stricter rules. But I feel like there's a loosening of a lot of those things, lifting.
Yeah, we didn't wear a mask anywhere except for the EPA. They asked us to wear a mask. That was it.
Interesting.
How about the air flight?
No mask.
Mm-mm,
Nothing.
they're not required.
So that's,
Full food, full service, full everything.
And then seasonal flu shots?
Seasonal flu shots are available. We're encouraging everybody to get vaccinated. There are a few events coming up, so I'll have to look if they're on the website, but there are a few events and we're doing some community events around as well.
And there's plenty of vaccine?
There's plenty of vaccine. I haven't heard anything.
It's very, very,
I
very,
need to go get mine.
yeah.
I'm gonna get mine when we're in Kettleman next week
Oh, at the
It's,
event.
at the park.
Did you get any new needles?
There's a few old
I haven't sharpened those.
box.
Yeah, Ed's still working on sharpening those from the last time, so I don't know. You gonna have them done by next week?
It's tough. It's been a year and there's a lot of needles to sharpen on.
Yeah, so, yeah. So yeah, you might want to get there either early and
Yes,
get a
sir.
good one or wait till late. So I
Nice.
don't know, yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, that concludes everything on the agenda this morning. We'll now move to board member announcements or reports on their own initiative. Supervisor Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quiet week last week, but a couple of events this weekend and recently the CASA fundraiser that helps support, foster kids in our community. Great event, great turnout and really important funding provided by the community for those efforts. I want to thank Wendy Osakawa for being there, bringing the department with her and showing the support, that link between county and our court systems and the foster children is really important and much needed for, the most challenged kids in our community. Also attended the Lincoln Reagan dinner last night. Also got a little recognition for my service. That was much appreciated. And with that, that's all I have. Oh, one last thing. I will be interested in hearing how the event with the president of Portugal was. We had invitations to that. My grandson popped up sick, and so I was on duty and I didn't get to attend it, but.
The new supervisor got to go.
Did
Sorry.
he? Yeah, you should be.
Supervisor Verboen, do we have an
Wasn't
update
invited
on
to
the
the-
Valley Voice trip?
I wasn't invited to the Portuguese,
You
so
weren't?
Dom Dutch wouldn't choose, wouldn't head, wouldn't listen. So,
Yeah.
Enough said.
yeah, so anyway, last week I attended the Valley Voice trip to Washington DC. Valley Voices is 8 counties, and also the Air District is involved in it as well. I sit on the Amtrak San Joaquin board, also on that same deal. It's the Transportation Committee. Talk about 99, any kind of transportation in our valley, train, car, whatever it is. And we also brought in water in that too, because we like to transport water throughout our communities. So we started off our day, I flew out Monday morning, got there Monday evening, started off meeting a lobbyist, Sean Winkler for Amtrak San Joaquin's. We had a meeting with him first thing when I got off the plane. Followed up the next morning with Congressman Valadao. Then we were invited to the White House for intergovernmental relations. We did that with the Trump administration. So we started out off with our Biden administration, younger staff, they've only really been working about 6 months on it. So it was a good meeting as well. Then we went to Congressman McClintock, and I was invited over to Senator Alex Padilla's office, or actually next to the Supreme Court. And he had a little fundraiser. About 5 people showed up. So I got to have one-on-one with him for about a half hour, took pictures with him. Gave him a county pin, one of my pins, and a card. Thanked him for giving us $2.5 million for the Amtrak station roof. So I said, that's not enough. We're gonna need some more. So it was a good meeting. Followed up with Congressman McCarthy, Congressman Josh Carter. Then I ended up in the U.S. Department of Transportation, representing the city of Hanford at that point, and talking, and also Amtrak San Joaquin's doing the congestion problem with Greenville and Lacey Boulevard. So they extended the funding on that. So at that point, we text City of Hanford and said, get your application in. Plenty of money to get that done. So hopefully they get on that as well. Then I went over to the Department of Interiors, talked about the BIOPS on the biological opinion on the going water through the Delta. And that was pretty good. And came home on Thursday at noon and started right back at work. And then had an Amtrak San Joaquin meeting the next day and had mainly a closed session items on that one too. And then attended the CASA dinner. And Sunday I was done. I was useless. So
Very good. Thank you.
Made my hair turn white.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. I know those Valley Voice trips. How big a group was?
It's about 16 of us,
Yeah.
but we had to reduce our time up between people. So like Padilla's office wouldn't meet us as a group. So they met them on a Zoom with their staff, but I was with them personally at a meeting. So that was kind of cool. McCarthy was too busy to meet with us. We met with his staff outside one of the halls. The staff member had to come out and get you to take you in, even though there was no proof of vaccination. They didn't want you in there. But once you got in, you can go underground and travel all over. Really quiet, no one in there. It was good. It's different than it's been before. Used to have full access to everything, and we don't have full access anymore. So hopefully they'll open up by the time we get back there in February. But yeah, it's eight counties: Kern, Kings, Tulare, Fresno, Madera, Modesto, San Joaquin, and San Joaquin. So we have different opinion, but we all settle on a talking point. So we all focus on one thing. We've done it, I think it's our 6th year, and it's a good group of guys. We all get along. No one steps on anybody. We all show respect. But it was really cool to be in the White House. We were in the war room, and it was really, that's a neat place if you ever get a chance to go. And yeah, they just kind of turned us loose. Hey, you're done, turn your badges in. We had the whole place to ourselves. We walked over into the Oval Office and no restrictions. It was kind of odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't turn me loose in a place like that.
No.
I start wandering. Yeah, we had a good time. Finally, someone said, hey, you guys probably should get out of here.
Yeah.
So,
Don't pick up the red phone.
no.
Or that's what they do on TV anyway.
No, they just said, go on in. No big deal, yeah.
Pictures, they like to take pictures too.
I took some of the Eisenhower, but nothing in the White House.
Very good. Well,
I didn't want to have proof.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Supervisor Valley.
I want to say thank you too, Supervisor. That's a lot of work and time away from your personal business too. So it's good for the whole county.
I needed
Thank
it
you.
though.
Thank you on behalf of District 2 as well. Mr. Chairman, I wanted to recognize or just say a couple things about Lance Lippincott. I think today is his last board meeting, but he was here, but I think he headed out. So anyways, just a big thank you. I know he's done a lot of work to hand off the $6 million small business grant program and hearing positive things so far about the program and appreciate the reports that they've been sending us now weekly, the little dashboard. And just want to thank him for his years of service. And then just close out, yesterday, Assemblymember Rudy Salas was in Kettleman City. We had a check presentation to the elementary kids there for the additional $6 million for the bridge. We talked about that last week on our agenda as well, and the fact that that bill that contains that money was already signed by the governor, and so that money is coming. There's a lot of public safety folks there. I want to thank them as well. Nate Fier was there as well. Thank you, and some of our firefighters. So I want to thank them too. There was a member from the CHP who was there, and he said that's his route. That's part of his jurisdiction. And he told the assembly member and I that in the, I believe he says about 10 years he's been working that area. He said at minimum, he's seen 1,000 close encounters of children nearly being hit there at that intersection, at that crosswalk. He also told us that the highest speeding ticket he's written there was 127 miles per hour and a drunk driver at 102 miles per hour right there. So he was very supportive of the pedestrian bridge and the safety, and the kids are looking very forward to it too. The kids were still a little somber from their two classmates that passed away north on Highway 41, which is a whole different situation than what we're talking about right now, obviously. But we got to talk to them, and the question that I got from them, they asked how long would it take for a bridge to actually be built, and I said I don't know. I said I just guessed. I said probably you wouldn't probably hear anything for about a year and a half, and they were mad at me for that. They want to see it quicker, but it was good being out there with the kids yesterday and seeing that another check presentation there to work with. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Fagundes.
A meeting I missed last week, Housing Authority, but I understand it was good. I had appointment in Fresno. And then, on Thursday, we did the Palace help with the fundraiser out there and, for the kids, and it turned out good. There was a lot of people bringing the kids out, taking part in all that. And thank you for putting that on and doing all that.
Yeah. No, I think you did all the work. The special meeting of the Housing Authority last week, we did adopt some changes in the payment standards to increase the reimbursement to landlords. Current market values have just gone up, and it's very difficult for families to make that rent payment. And some of them, even with the increased interest payments, even their mortgages. And so hopefully this will kind of help them and try to find up some more units. Also talked about changes in the family sufficiency action plan. This plan has been in effect for a few years now, and it helps families put away money that are in the housing program, and they can save up for specific items, car breakdowns, down payments on a house, different things. It's not very well utilized, but we continue to tweak it and hopefully make it better to better fit some of the families. Some of those families have a difficult time making it from one month to the other without, putting any extra money away. West Hills College volleyball game continues. The Lemoore Kiwanis Club visited. They only have about 8 members, so if you're interested in joining a service club, that's available. As Supervisor Fagundes talked about, the Santa Rosa Rancheria Native American Day cooked over 300 pounds of tri-tip to perfection and sliced. We had a wonderful group, Richard Fagundes, John Martin, Keith Fagundes, Jim Kilner, Cunningham, Pereira, Dutra, and Filippo Sanfilippo. And then my wife just orders me around all the time. But we had a wonderful crew cooking 300 pounds in about 3 hours from cook to slice. So wonderful event. Continue to work football games at Lemoore High. The Lemoore Cemetery Walk on Saturday was a very neat event. If you've never had a chance to do that, they pick several people in the cemetery and have a story about them. And you travel around to the different spots, and very, very good put on by Ceremony Museum. The class of 72 celebrated their 50th class reunion. My wife again worked me to death. It's hard to believe that could be the same age as some of those old people, but it's strange. There's 4 years difference between us, between Kathy and I, but I knew a lot of those guys in her class and just had a great time. About 80 of us got together, and it was a very nice time. We talked about the Stratford celebration. Thank you. We met with the Portuguese president, Wesley Rodriguez, and had dinner, lunch for him. I did hear stories. The president of Portugal is a very articulate individual. He's a professor at the University of Portugal. He's a newspaper reporter. He's a politician. 3 occupations. That means it was a very long evening. And so, Valadeo didn't get to the dais to make his remarks until 10:30 at night. So it was a long event. So he remains in California. They were in Gustine on Sunday afternoon, Atwater on Sunday night. And I think there's Portuguese night at the San Francisco Giants. So they have a complete itinerary for that. Kings County yesterday, Kings County Behavioral Health. I want to thank Dr. Lewis and Katie. Thank you very much. Talked about the statewide electronic health records innovation project. We're going to be hearing that at some point in the future. And then also had a notebook about the data notebook submission and the drug Medi-Cal waivers, overview, updates and changes, and the whole California prescription process is just changing a great deal and just continues to be a little bit of a challenge, I think, for a lot of people that was going to add staffing. But I think the end game is going to be a very effective process. So With that,
Sure.
Mr.
One more thing on,
Yeah.
on SB 1883, I got a text here from the Farm Bureau. They used to have a program with vouchers to pick up trash that was dumped on the side of the road. They don't do it anymore. They're willing to bring that program back. Want to discuss it. So I'll have Chuck or public health or
Dominic.
environmental health or Dominic reach out to them.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Mr. Hill, you want to talk about board correspondence, upcoming events, and future agenda items?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. For board correspondence, your board received statements from the California Offices of Emergency Services regarding grant funding and cost incurred for the Child Advocacy Center program. For upcoming events, there will be a Kings County Public Safety event on Thursday, October 6th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Kettleman City Park. We spoke about it earlier today. This is a free family event for the Kettleman City community to learn about different services provided by Kings County. There'll be a free barbecue, free flu shots, and much more. The Hanford Harvest Fest will take place on October 15th from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Hanford Mall. The day will include various activities for all ages. Many of them are available with purchase of an access pass. Passes are $10 per person. The Kings County Farm Bureau will be hosting their annual Harvest Classic Golf event on Monday, October 17th at the Kings County Country Club in Hanford with a shotgun start at 10 a.m. The tickets are $150 per person or $600 for team, and the registration deadline is September 30th. For upcoming agenda items, the following agenda items are for the October 4th meeting. Ag will be bringing a study session regarding the 2021 agriculture crop report for Kings County. Behavioral health has 3 items: consideration regarding approval of an agreement with the Source LGBT plus agreement for family support group services. Consideration regarding approval of a subcontract agreement with Advocates for Human Potential Incorporated for behavioral health, mobile crisis, and non-crisis services. Sorry, I skipped over one. No, I got all 3. Finance has 1 item for consideration regarding approval of a third amendment to agreement between the County of Kings and Hudson Henderson and Company, LLP, for annual County of Kings audit. Health has 1 item for consideration regarding the rollover of public health grant funding. Human Resources has 1 item for consideration regarding the purchase of vehicles for Human Services Agency. Public Works has 3 items: consideration regarding the Burris Park and Hickory Park site improvement project, consideration to authorize the award of bids and authorize the purchase of roads, vehicles, equipment, and consideration to approve the train chiller renewal service program. I'd also like to take this opportunity to also thank Lance Lippincott for his service. As mentioned, this was his last board meeting, but he had to get on the move and get accounts moved and things set up so that the transition could happen smoothly. It would have been nice if he'd have stuck around so we could harass him a little bit. That concludes my report. Thank you.
The job training and annual meeting is also October 27th. You might add that to the list. And I think it's going to be at the fairgrounds this year. And yeah, October 27th. So you might add that to the list. Anything else that we missed?
Are we labeled as a special meeting for starting tomorrow or Thursday as well?
I think it's all social, right? We don't have an agenda we have an agenda, but we don't have a posted agenda. We talked about that. Diane?
Chairman,
Oh,
we
yes,
actually
you're
did.
talking about the San Joaquin. It's posted. Okay.
And so, yeah, that begins on the tomorrow, the 28th in the evening and runs till Friday. San Joaquin Valley Regional Association of California Counties, hosted by Kings County at the Santa Rosa Rancheria at the Tachi Palace. And the city county coordinating meeting is hosted by Lemoore on October 3rd at 5:30. And I believe it's the Veterans Hall, correct? I think Veterans Hall in Lemoore. That's the other 2 items that will continue to go on the remainder of the week. With that, that concludes all of the items on today's agenda. We do have 2 items of closed session quality, public personnel matter, a public employee appointment regarding the job training office director, and a litigation formally. And those items will be reported out at next meeting, which is scheduled right now for Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. So with that, the board will adjourn out of closed session. Thank you very much for everyone for being here. Have a safe trip home, and we'll see you next time.